On a Friday in August of 1998, the last bicycle ever built in America by Huffy rolled off the line in Sulinu, Ohio, and about 1,000 people watched their jobs end with it. For 60 years, that town had built Huffys. And here's the thing I want you to hold on to for the next few minutes, because it is the whole story in one sentence. The name did not die that day. The bike did. The name outlived the bike, and where it ended up is going to surprise you. Because it was not really a foreign factory that killed the American Huffy. It was one American customer you probably shopped at this week. Start at the beginning, because it is stranger than the brand lets on. Huffy did not start as a bike company. In 1887, a Dayton man named George Huff Munn bought the Davis Sewing Machine Company. And by the 1890s, that factory was turning out bicycles, and turning out a lot of them. Briefly, the largest bike producer in the whole country. Sewing machines to bicycles. Remember that, because reinvention is baked into this company from day one. In 1924, George's son Horace founded Huffman Manufacturing, and in 1934, in the teeth of the Depression, Horace bet that people would want a cheap way to get around, and started building bikes under the name that became Huffy. And for a while, they built some genuinely wonderful, slightly mad machines. My favorite is the 1955 Huffy Radiobike. It had a working tube radio built into the tank between the handlebars, 3 vacuum tubes, and it switched on with a key, just like Dad's car. It was gorgeous, and it was a flop. The batteries were huge and expensive and died fast, and only about 8,500 were ever made. Collectors love them now, and before anyone types it, no, an old Huffy is not a retirement fund. A minty radio bike is a lovely thing to own, but bikes are not watches. This channel will never tell you a bicycle is an investment. It is a machine you ride. Now the rise gets serious. The company took the name Huffy Corporation in 1977, and through the 1980s, it was a giant, trading on the New York Stock Exchange, brushing up against the Fortune 500. At its peak, Huffy built more than 2 million bicycles a year, and was the largest bike manufacturer anywhere outside of Asia. In 1980, they pushed something like 3.2 million units, and after a big restructuring, the plants were rolling out around 5,000 bikes a day. In Sulinu, Huffy was the single largest employer in town. This was a real American factory, making real American bikes at enormous scale. And this is where the whole story quietly tips its hand, in the proudest moment of all. In the late 1980s, Huffy put its name on a professional road racing team, the 711 Squad, and those bikes went to the Tour de France, which in French you say Tour de France, with Huffy written right on the down tube. Except here is what the ads never mentioned. Huffy did not build those frames, not one of them. They were welded by hand, one at a time, by a master frame builder named Ben Suratu in upstate New York, then painted and stickered to say Huffy. The most celebrated Huffys ever raced, the ones that climbed real mountains in front of the world, were another man's craftsmanship wearing the badge. Hold on to that, because the name outliving the bike is not something that happened to Huffy at the end. It was the trick the whole time. So that is the rise everyone half remembers. The convertible, the radio bike, 2 million bikes a year, the name on the tour. What comes next is how one phone call from one retailer turned all of it into a logo on somebody else's frame. And it is the part that still makes people in Ohio angry. Quick thing before we get into it. If you like the honest version of these stories, the one that does not pretend a department store bike is a betrayal or a miracle, subscribing genuinely helps, and the people who do always seem to end up buying the right bike for them. Right, back to it, because here is where it turns. The villain. In this story is not China, and if you came for that, I am going to disappoint you honestly. The villain is the American price war, and its biggest single face is Walmart. By the 1990s, the giant retailers controlled roughly 3/4 of the bikes sold in America. And when you sell that many bikes, you set the price. The maker does not. Walmart would order on the order of 900,000 Huffys at a time, a staggering number, and then tell Huffy the price had to come down. And it kept coming down. Huffy did the math over and over, and even in its non-union American plants, it simply could not build a bicycle for what its biggest customer was willing to pay. So the factories fell. Sulino closed, and on that Friday in August of 1998, the last American-made Huffy came off the line, and about 935 people, roughly 1,000 jobs, were gone. The smaller plants in Missouri and Mississippi followed. From 1999, the bikes came from Mexico, and then increasingly from China, where the reporting at the time put wages at 25 to 41 cents an hour. And here's the detail that tells you how brutal the squeeze really was. Even after moving to that labor, Huffy still could barely turn a profit. So be fair about it. This was not simple greed, and it was not simple treason. A mass-market bike built by well-paid Americans genuinely could not survive at the price Americans insisted on paying at the checkout. We wanted it cheap. This is what cheap costs. And it got worse before the twist. In October of 2004, Huffy filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. When it came out the next year, it came out effectively under the control of its own Chinese suppliers and a Chinese state-backed insurer called Sinosure. Read that slowly. The suppliers who made the bikes now owned the name on the bikes. The American company had become the thing it once stuck onto other people's frames. A badge. Now here is a fascinating part. You would expect the story to end in a quiet death. It does the opposite. Today, Huffy is owned by a company called United Wheels, run out of Miamisburg, right there in the Dayton area where it all started. And by the company's own numbers, as of 2024, Huffy holds around 45% of the entire American mass-market bike segment. That is not a survivor. That is the single biggest share of anyone. They have even relaunched a BMX team. The company that stopped making bicycles now sells more of them than it ever did when it built everyone by hand. The name outlived the bike, and then the name went and won. So what do you actually do with all this? Look, a Huffy today is a fine first bike for a kid, at a price genuinely nothing else touches, and there is no shame in that. Just know exactly what it is. It is a badge on a competent, inexpensive Asian-built frame. And the single most important thing you can do is have it assembled properly. Because on a cheap bike, the fit and the build quality matter far more than the name on the tank. Fit beats brand every single time. And that has been true since the Radiobike. And that is the whole uncomfortable American story sitting in one bicycle. The town lost. The workers in Sulino lost. And the name won bigger than ever by becoming exactly what it always secretly was. So I will leave it with you, because you will have opinions. Did Walmart kill Huffy, or did Huffy just do the only thing it could to survive? And does a proud old badge on a Chinese frame still count as a real brand? Or is it just a ghost that sells well? Tell me below and tell me which American name you actually miss. I read every one. And if this got you thinking about what old bikes are really worth, do not fall for the hype, because most vintage gear is worth almost nothing. But a small handful of old parts genuinely climb every year. That is the next one. 12 vintage Shimano, which you say Shimano, parts that are quietly worth real money, honest values, real listings, no nonsense. I will see you there. Just click the video appearing on the screen to see. Bye.